I watched them all the time. I think I watched Indiana State and Iowa, Caitlin Clark play about the same last year, so I watched a lot of basketball.
Like, can we get Caitlin Clark a little protection out there?
Anybody that does something flagrant to this young lady for what she's brought to the game should be suspended and fined big time.
What happens when one of the greatest legends in basketball history witnesses one of the most talented young stars in the WNBA being singled out with questionable tactics? That's exactly the storm that erupted after Larry Bird's explosive comments about Marina Mabrey's actions against Caitlin Clark. His words didn't just stir up debate. They shook the entire basketball world. T.O. understand why his remarks hit so hard. You have to start with a broader context. Caitlin Clark isn't just another rookie trying to make her way in professional basketball. She's the most hyped young talent the WNBA has ever seen, carrying the weight of being both the face of the league and its biggest draw. Every game she plays draws eyes. Every move she makes is dissected, and every physical challenge she faces feels magnified. So when she became the target of shove from Marina Mabrey during a Connecticut Sun game, especially while Clark was already vulnerable after being poked in the eye, it immediately set off alarms. But the moment took on a whole new level of seriousness when Larry Bird, one of basketball's most respected voices.
Right.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. Marina Mabrey kind of blindsided Clark there. Oh, boy. Sheldon and Cunningham are getting into it. These two teams do not like each other.
Waiting, Bird didn't mince words. Watching the footage, he described Mabrey's shove as the most cowardly act I've seen on a basketball court in decades. That's not hyperbole coming from him. This is a man who played to the roughest, most physical era in NBA history, when enforcers like Bill Laimbeer and Dennis Rodman tried to wear him down night after night. Bird knew exactly what genuine, tough, competitive basketball looked like, and he knew instantly that Mabrey's move wasn't it. For Bird, the distinction was crystal clear. Physicality, when rooted in competition, is part of basketball's DNA. It's about testing strength, endurance, and toughness. But what Mabrey did, he argued, had nothing to do with competing at the highest level. It was about taking advantage of a player when she wasn't looking, when she was at her most vulnerable. Bird drew a line between hard-nosed defense and cheap shots, and in his eyes, Mabrey had crossed it completely. What particularly infuriated him wasn't just the shove itself. It was what came after. Instead of owning up to her actions, Mabrey brushed off criticism with a dismissive, "Damned if I do, damned if I don't." To Bird, that response revealed everything. Great players, he argued, always take responsibility. They know when they've crossed a line, and they step up to admit it. That's what separates champions from those who spend their careers on the margins. By refusing accountability and acting like she was a victim, Mabrey confirmed in Bird's mind that she wasn't operating at a championship-level in essence. Bird accused her of being a player who couldn't match superior skill through basketball itself. So she resorted to shortcuts, tactics that might rattle a star, but do nothing to elevate her own game. And that's where the criticism turned devastating for Mabrey's reputation. Bird's perspective carried extra weight because he recognized something familiar in Caitlin Clark, qualities that reminded him of his own rise. He saw in her the rare mix of court vision, basketball IQ, clutch shooting, and leadership that defined his legendary career. But he also saw a troubling pattern. Instead of being allowed to focus solely on honing those gifts, Clark was being forced to constantly watch her back, bracing for the next cheap shot or unnecessary shove. He called this the weakest form of basketball competition imaginable. And for Bird, it represented more than just a personal gripe against one player. It symbolized a broader issue threatening the WNBA. If the league allowed players like Mabrey to keep targeting superstars without consequences, it sent a dangerous message that mediocrity could be masked by dirty tactics, that relevance could be maintained not through skill, but through undermining the very players carrying the sport forward. Bird's comments grew even sharper when he turned to the impact on younger generations. The WNBA, he argued, should be modeling skill, hard work, and sportsmanship. Kids watching games should see examples of dedication and excellence, not strategies built around exploiting vulnerabilities. Failing to enforce that standard, Bird warned, risked damaging the league's credibility and growth. But perhaps the most powerful part of his analysis wasn't about Mabrey at all. It was about Clark. Bird believes adversity is forging her into something even greater. every shove, every cheap shot, every moment of intimidation is hardening her mentally, making her more determined to let her play speak louder than any opponent's tactics. He compared her journey to his own rookie season, when veterans constantly tested his toughness, but he noted a key difference. Clark is dealing with that treatment under the crushing weight of being the most marketable, talked about, and scrutinized player in WNBA history. For Bird, Clark's ability to not just survive but thrive under those conditions is proof of her extraordinary potential. She isn't just a scorer or a flashy talent. She embodies a resilience and class that elevate a player into legendary status. That's why Bird wasn't just defending her. He was defending the very integrity of basketball. His message was unmistakable. The WNBA is at a crossroads. On one path, the league protects and empowers its brightest stars, allowing Clark and others like her to showcase their skills and elevate women's basketball to unprecedented heights. On the other, it tolerates cheap tactics and lets lesser players drag the game down, creating a culture where targeting superstars becomes a norm instead of striving to match their excellence. Bird made it clear which choice he believes the league must make. The future of women's basketball, in his eyes, depends on ensuring that greatness is allowed to shine without being constantly dimmed by unsportsmanlike play. And that leaves a burning question hanging over the basketball world. Will the WNBA listen? Will they take Bird's warning seriously and take steps to protect their biggest star? Or will they continue down a path where players like Marina Mabrey can undermine the league's image with actions that do nothing to elevate the sport? What makes Bird's comments so impactful is that they don't come from a place of bias or sensationalism. They come from a player who lived through the fiercest battles in basketball history and who understands what makes competition beautiful. He knows the difference between toughness and weakness, between grit and cowardice, between championship mentality and desperation. And in Caitlin Clark, he sees the kind of rare brilliance that deserves to be nurtured, not targeted. The entire basketball community is now watching closely. Clark's journey is still in its early chapters, but with every game she plays, with every obstacle she overcomes, her legacy grows stronger. And Bird's words may end up being remembered as a turning point, when a legend stepped in to call out what was wrong and challenge the league to do what's right. Because in the end, this story isn't just about Clark or Mabrey. It's about what kind of basketball the WNBA wants to represent. Will it be the game of skill, vision, and integrity that Larry Bird devoted his life to, or will it risk being diminished by the very behaviors he so powerfully condemned? The answer will shape not just Clark's career, but the future of the entire league.